we can't allow the press to film this building. Listen, you can videotape, it's just not right here in the direction of the building.
In the direction of the building?
Yeah.
You want to set this clip up, Ford?
Sure. So to people who don't know about the
in the
game stonk situation, as some people might joke about it, GameStop and AMC both had people buying up stocks in order to basically screw over hedge fund managers who had shorted those stocks, basically making a bet that they would go down. And what was interesting was that Robinhood, which is a trading app that a lot of small-time investors use, shut down trading of those stocks. And it was widely perceived that there was a conflict of interest there and that they were serving the rich despite the name Robinhood. And so there was going to be a protest in front of the SEC building in Washington, D.C. And so just to set up the context, in Washington, D.C., people have protests outside federal buildings all the time. There's protests outside the Capitol, the White House, Department of Justice, ICE, right? All these places. But the SEC isn't a normal one to say. I think this is the first time I've ever been to one outside of there. And I started interviewing the first person who showed up. 2 federal cops came outside to try to say, you can't film in the direction of this building. But so that's probably a good enough setup to show it.
Here we go.
Looks like there's a...
Listen, you can videotape, it's just not right here in the direction of the building.
In the direction of the building?
Yeah, you point in that direction, you're fine. Just not in the direction of the building.
What statute would explain why I can't film on a public street in a government building?
No, you could film. I'm not telling you not to, just not in the direction of the building. So if you just point in that direction, you're fine. I'm not telling you not to.
To be honest, I was just filling in, but with respect, what statute are you citing that would describe why I can't film in the direction of a federal building?
Well,
we're in public and this is a government building.
Correct. That's why we're protecting the government building. I'm not telling you not to. But it's our job to protect this building.
Oh, this is my congressional trespass.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Just point in that direction you're fine.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Like, what law are you citing to describe that?
I'm sorry?
You're saying that there. Are you saying that it is illegal to point a camera at this building?
We're not saying it's illegal, but you know, just because we're protecting this building, all right, we just recommend you point in that direction. Right. We don't want to make it no big of an issue than it is. So just out of courtesy, just point in that direction if you don't mind.
Your recommendation is duly noted. I would appreciate law if you were trying to say that it is illegal for me to do so. Right. Otherwise, it seems like it's a recommendation.
Yeah, we're not trying to do anything to the building. The people inside the building are doing all the rest of us.
Right.
Not you guys. You guys are probably doing your job, but I understand that, man. And I think we're on the same side here.
What does that mean?
Hold the line.
What line?
The market.
Market?
We're getting crushed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Stock market?
Stock market. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So the SEC is basically enabling a lot of stuff that I'm sure you wouldn't agree with. All right.
For the corrupt. So, all right. But
hey, guys, thank you, guys.
All right, man. You guys have a good rest of your day.
All right. So that you're not allowed to look. You're not allowed to face the building.
Right. And by the way, so I continued to do the interview. I said what I
got
said,
the second clip, but
oh, cool. Yeah, that's all primed up. I said your recommendation is duly noted, and I think he interpreted that to mean I'm going to comply. I just meant, yeah, I heard what you said, but like whatever, right? It's not, there's no law. And I mean, to be clear, for anybody who is not already kind of aware watching this, you absolutely have a right when you're in public to film pretty much wherever you want. The kind of rule, or, you know, there's some states have different laws, but generally speaking, you know, the type of thing that would be illegal would be to film into somewhere where someone doesn't have a reasonable expectation of privacy. So you can't stand on a public street and then zoom really tightly into somebody's like bathroom or something, like, but short of that, I mean, filming into a federal government building, anything like that, with the rare exception of some military installations and things like that, you pretty much always have the right to do it. And those police officers obviously, I think, had some idea of that. I have no idea why they felt the prerogative to make this issue, which obviously attracted more attention onto themselves in the building. But they seemed aware, because when I was saying, can you cite any law? Which law would you be referring to? They're like, oh, no, we just have to protect the building, so we're asking you not to. I have no idea what threat they think that the SEC would be under based on people seeing what it looks like.
I mean, they have photos of the goddamn building on their own website. I mean, it's not a secret building. It's a building that exists in public, funded by public money, viewable from the public.
Right, if you're a taxpayer, you know, like you built it. I continued interviewing the guy. I didn't actually change. I was just like, wow, that was annoying or something. And then I just started doing the interview again, and they came back out and continued to make issues about this. And then another photographer showed up and sort of supported us.
I'll play it. This is just so not even
Come on, help me out. All right.
Yeah, I mean, as noted again, there's a law. There's a law that says that people are able to film on a public street, a public building. I'm really not actually like trying to, but now that you've kind of turned this into a First Amendment on it, right? But
actually, I'm not. But I see that you are. But you know, I'm just acting out of courtesy. If you could film in that direction, I mean, how difficult can that be? I'm not against what you're trying to do at all.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not against you guys either. Again, when a law enforcement officer is, and you are law enforcement, right? I mean, so. In order to, you can certainly recommend something to you, and I'm certainly happy to do it as a courtesy. I mean, I can interview him in this direction, but I mean, he's here protesting this.
Yeah, but easy. I mean, you know, you guys, you know, carry on with whatever you're trying to do. I stand by, you know, if it's the right thing. But just out of courtesy for myself and for my leaders, you know, if you could just film in that direction. I'm not trying to make things difficult.
I'm happy to keep doing that. I will turn and talk to him just to sort of avoid this conversation continuing.
It's just out of courtesy.
Is there an actual law that you would cite? Are you basically asking just out of sort of the kindness of my heart, point this way because it makes you feel more comfortable, or are you saying there's a law you would enforce? You would arrest or you'd cite me or something like that if for filming a federal building?
That's not what we're saying, man.
We're not saying any of that. It's just the protocol that we can't allow the press to film this building. That's it.
You can't.
Security protocol.
You're saying you wouldn't allow it. What is the enforceability? Like, is there a law or a regulation? Is there something that you actually?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's orders. I have orders.
Someone told you to tell me that?
I have orders. Yeah, I have orders.
A supervisor at the American Security Programs, Security Services?
Not at all. Security and Exchange. You just can't do it. I mean, if you like, I could give you a number you can call and you can ask them yourself. Man.
I'd be happy to. I think that would be kind of interesting to see if your supervisor would say the same position.
Right. So 202. If you want to take this number down, you can ask any questions you want.
Well, I'm recording it, but. So, I mean, out of curiosity, it seems like you're concerned about video pointed at this building. Like a photographer just showed up with the same credential as I have. Are you saying that you wouldn't want him, for example, to photograph a federal building as well? I don't mean to drag you into it. They're trying to say that we shouldn't film in the direction of a federal building from the sidewalk.
Oh, we have the right from the public sidewalk to do that. We absolutely have the right.
Thank you, stranger.
I'm not doubting that. Okay. What I'm saying is you can film all day in here, but I'm asking you to film in the other direction. That's it. I'm not saying you can't.
We're on public place. We're allowed to photograph. We don't take direction from you about where we photograph. Right. Yeah. But we'll absolutely stay in the public place. We'll not
I'll tell you what, we're going another route. I was hoping that we can come to some kind of understanding.
For sure. Yeah, I have no problem with you personally. I just...
You certainly do, but it seemed like only one of us is respecting the other.
No. It's not disrespectful. It's freedom of...
No, it really is. But we'll go another route, okay?
Please.
All right.
Unbelievable.
Coming back.
Unbelievable. It's disrespectful. Ford, it's disrespectful to just face a government building with your camera. It's disrespectful. And then those motherfuckers, they threatened you. Oh, yeah? Well, we're going to have to do it another way.
We're going to go another way then.
Yeah. Another route.
I do think it's really, I mean, the one thing that I regret about that interaction, so actually I think there's two things that I regret about the way that I interacted there. The first one is I probably should have stood my ground more. My reason for saying I will I'll, you know, as a courtesy, when you guys go back inside, I'll just interview him the other way. I think I did actually say that, and I did perform the rest of my interview with him face the other way. And the reason I did that was actually largely because I could see it was really making him uncomfortable. That guy had told me that it was his first demonstration, and you know, when the police initially came out, like, he was very ready to just do whatever they were kind of saying. And, you know, and it was like, we're on the same side, you know, so whatever. I kind of felt that it would have been inappropriate. I certainly had a right to just keep filming the building, but I wasn't there to film the building. And I didn't want to force this other person into that situation by being like, no, you have to have the thing in the background. Like, I didn't want to force, like, put somebody else at a risk level that they haven't actually asked for. If it had just been me, if I was just going there to take video of the SEC building as B-roll for something, I would have definitely taken that argument farther. But my one other regret is I wish that I had asked them if they had sworn an oath to the Constitution, because pretty much all law enforcement officers do so. Usually there's an oath both to the Constitution and also sometimes to the state constitution that they're in, but those were federal cops that protect specifically federal buildings. Presumably they've only sworn an oath to the Constitution. So they've sworn an oath to uphold the First Amendment. And so it hurts me when I like, it's a funny thing for them to say, but like, I actually find it like painful to my heart to hear them say that they found it disrespectful that we are standing up for the right to film a government building. I have nothing against those two particular cops, right? I don't know them. They might be very nice people, but they're not following their oath. And in my view, they're not respecting their own oath to the Constitution by trying to go against a journalist taking video, interviewing somebody, and then ultimately when a photographer showed up.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. And that's kind of what's happening on YouTube. They said you're not allowed to look at this. And then you say, hold on. That's not fair. That doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, well, we didn't say you're not allowed. You're just saying you're not allowed. We didn't say you're not allowed. We're just saying you're not allowed to.
Right. And I would add, I see that a commenter, I may be in defense of the cops, maybe not, but they said they did not forbid you. They asked, which they can do. And that was something I was trying to harp on in the conversation. Are you asking me as a courtesy because you just don't want me to, but you're not trying to force it? I'm a little bit more happy to have a conversation like that. Am I making you uncomfortable basically in some way? I don't want to cause discomfort to somebody if there's some reason that I am. So I'm happy to hear someone else out if they're saying that there's a, basically as a courtesy, can you step a little further back or whatever? But to that person's point though, they said we can't allow it, right? The words, we can't allow it. We have orders. Yes. And so that was why I was harping on, when you say we can't allow it, what do you mean? Police are supposed to stop things that are illegal, and they're supposed to uphold. It's not just we're not supposed to violate it. They're supposed to actively uphold the Constitution. They're supposed to actively do those things that would defend that right. If some random person and a pro SEC extremist came and tried to smash the camera out of my hands, they should actually arrest that person. And that's what their oath is. And so unfortunately, at least in that moment, they were defying their oath. I think that was disrespectful to the Constitution, not us being disrespectful to them.
Yeah, and even though, eventually they did say multiple times, oh, we're just asking. Mm-hmm. Like you said, no, that's not how it started. They said, we can't allow this. And then at the very end, they very threateningly said, well, we're going to have to do it another way.
We're going it another way. I half expected them to come back outside with a supervisor. I really don't know what happened inside, but my guess is that if they went inside and talked to a supervisor, the supervisor would go, you can't actually do that. I had a situation once in the IRS actually that I think would be kind of illuminating here. The IRS has public meetings inside their building on the 7th floor that you have to go through security, you have to register, and very few people, basically nobody who isn't actually a party to the IRS or legal firms or whatever that are involved, actually show up. And I worked for a nonprofit at one point that specifically was trying to create IRS accountability. And part of the job that I was doing was going and filming IRS hearings that nobody would otherwise actually see. And there was one time that I went and they I set up my camera inside. I was authorized. I was completely able to do it. I did everything right. I set up a camera, and 8 minutes into this meeting, like basically their security comes running in and is like, "You have to take that down. Come out with me." Like I was like detained. Basically, I was not put in handcuffs, but they were like, "We are going to remove you from the building for filming this meeting," and we were basically arguing. I'm trying to say this is a First Amendment right to film this public meeting. I went through every procedure, right? I did everything I'm supposed to do. You cannot stop me. And I was like, but if you're going to force me out of the building, I'm not going to make you arrest me, right? Like, if you're saying we're making you leave the building, I will comply with your instruction, but I need to know who are you? What's your name? And the guy's like, well, I can't, it's not me who's doing this. I'm like, literally, it is you. Right. And he's like, well, my supervisors told me I have to, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, find that supervisor for me. Like, I need the name of the person who you're saying is doing this. And this interaction was going back and forth until a public relations person, can you imagine that? The IRS has PR, came down, like running down and was like, wait, stop. And he's like, of course you can film here. Just set up. I hope you didn't miss too much. And he like basically called the cops off, and he gave me a business card and he said, next time you come back to the IRS, can you just tell me beforehand and I'll make sure that nobody badgers you. But I think what it shows is, as opposed to, interestingly, the SEC is not a militarized federal agency. By contrast, I've filmed outside the Department of Justice, DHS, ICE, right, Customs and Border Patrol. When there's protests there, they haven't really had issues. What I think kind of happened is that federal agencies like the IRS and like the SEC that don't really deal with much videography happening at those places, their security guards don't really deal with this. They don't have experience dealing with First Amendment, whether that be political demonstrations or cameras or a combination of both in the case of the SEC. And so they basically seem to freak out. But the more knowledgeable people within their organization are going to tell them there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And yeah, there's nothing they can do. You have the law on your side in this case.
Absolutely.
Now, and so because you're dealing with public federal authorities. So and now in the case of YouTube, it's a private company. So how, what's your thought on that? How do we solve, because damn well those security guards, if they could, they would arrest you. They'd, destroy your your video, and that's what YouTube is doing. And but YouTube can legally do that. So what is your thoughts on this? How can we fix this very real problem with YouTube censorship?
Right. So there are a few different ways that people approach it, and what's challenging is that I haven't found a solution that I think is really perfect. So I'll tell some solutions, but I'll also say what the problems with them are. So there's an effort, I would say, mostly among what I would call the populist right, to say let's have the government regulate big tech and therefore make free speech be sort of forced. I understand the frustration and sentiment that goes into that idea, but I'm deeply skeptical of the concept that the state could be the solution to censorship, because historically, states are actually the perpetrators of censorship. And we're really entering a new realm with private companies being the cause of that problem. And so I'm not convinced that the government is actually going to solve it, right? Imagine if Martin Luther King Jr. had asked the FBI of the 1960s, can you make sure that the newspapers publish my content? They'd be like, yeah, right. We'll see about that one. Right. So I think that anybody who's honestly thinking about this, it's hard to come to the conclusion that the government would actually assist in the free flow of information, when I think history would just show that that's not the case.
Well, they don't have to assist in the free flow of information. They just have to defend your right. And that,
you're right to do it.
Yeah. And yeah. So that's what I think more people are arguing. They're saying, this should be regulated in a way where you can't just have these private companies make these decisions without any due process, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many people. And it's not transparent at all. You just have a few people who you don't even know the identities of making these decisions.
Right. So I think that the spirit of that should be how these companies are organized. I would love for YouTube to have actual accountability. I think that Minds, which is an alt social media platform, had a really cool concept, which was they had, if they do take down, you know, it's sort of a free speech platform, but if they do take down something, they do have rules, right? If you're going to threaten people, advocate violence, snuff videos, certain other inappropriate types of content, that they would take it down. But if somebody appeals and says, I actually think Minds was wrong, then it goes to a jury of, it has not, out of 12 other users that are randomly selected, the company would have to convince 9 out of 12 of them that their censorship decision was correct. Like, I don't know that that would be really easy to apply on YouTube, and I assume that sort of a gamified system like that could probably be abused in some way when it's put on a giant scale. But I think that's actually a pretty creative solution. So I'm not principally against that idea.
It's already it's a better, yeah. Sure, like juries don't always get things right. However, that's a better system than we have currently.
I think that the reason that I think that's a good idea. I think the reason that it probably doesn't work as something to advocate for is that YouTube is never going to surrender its own power over its content to the users. That's sort of what should principally be what YouTube is about. But I think that just given the nature of YouTube as a business right now, I think that they're not going to be inclined towards doing something like that. I also see people say, what about using alternative social media platforms? I think I actually saw a super chat in your comments asking that question.
Yes, let me ask that question for Sven. He says, what are your thoughts on Rockfin, Panquake, and other decentralized platforms? Now, I don't know if Minds is it's not. I don't believe it's a decentralized platform.
So Minds is decentralized in the sense that I believe the content lives on blockchain.
That's
it's
right.
not it's a centralized like website, I think, in the sense like that it's hosted the way any other website is. But I think the actual content, like user posts, are theoretically like blockchain. You know, like
and the messages are encrypted.
And it's encrypted message. Like it's a step. And so I actually have a Minds account, and I reset it to start posting content automatically from my YouTube recently. So like when I post a YouTube video, it's going to automatically cross post to Minds. And if YouTube takes it down, it would not come off of Minds. So it's effectively a backup. I set up something similar on, there's a service called Odyssey, which is run by the technology called Library, LBRY. Library, maybe. I don't know how they pronounce it, but so I have started sort of backing up my content to alternative sites. But I do have one issue just generally with alternative social media. So like technologically, I don't really, I think that the idea of Parler, Minds, and even Gab is not a bad idea. But the issue is that when they are based around being the alternative social media site for the censored, I think they end up having a probably very specific communities. Like the reason that I would never touch Gab myself is not because the technology is bad, although I've heard that it doesn't really work right now, but that it has a complete echo chamber of it's just completely all far right, you know, trolls, racists, Nazis, like just various, like, you know, of the extreme far right is
not all, obviously not all.
Not all. I mean, I'm sure you could find examples.
A disproportionate, you know, like much more than you would find, well, than you found on Facebook or Twitter ever.
You, Matt, you're making my fall off.
Man, great job, Matt.
He goes by the name Orf.
Wonderful job.
So call him Matto, because I don't want to butcher his name.
Matt Orphalia.
Matt Orphalia.
Matt Orphalea.
Subscribe to him.
Matt Orphala. Matt Orphala.
Matt Orphala.
Incredible.
If I follow this guy on YouTube, you should too. His name is Matt Orphalia.
Orf.